Bloomberg Audio Studios. Podcasts, radio, news.
This is the Bloomberg Daybreak Asia podcast. I'm Doug Krizner. You can join Bryan, Curtis, and myself for the stories making news and moving markets in the APAC region. You can subscribe to the show anywhere you get your podcast and always on Bloomberg Radio, the Bloomberg Terminal, and the Bloomberg Business app.
Well, today marks the 27th year of Hong Kong being handed over to China. And joining us now in our studios is Emily Lau, who is a Hong Kong Democratic Party member, a former chair of the Democratic Party, and a former legislator here in Hong Kong, serving for some 25 years or so. Joining us in our studios to talk a little bit more about what is Establishment Day. Emily, what does Establishment Day mean to you at this point in time?
Well, I feel very sad and distressed because many of my friends and party members are languishing in prison. Some are waiting for sentence. The trial has gone on for a long time. They've been locked up for over 3 years. And of course, civil society in Hong Kong has more or less collapsed in a sense that many media outlets have closed down. Journalists are either in prison or have fled overseas or are not willing to do the job anymore. And my party is just surviving. We were not allowed to take part in the district council election last year. We could not get permit to do fundraising by selling raffle tickets. And we can't even have banquets for members and friends. And of course, a number of my members are in prison, and other parties, some have closed down. And there are no demonstrations, no marches, no public assembly anymore. That was what Hong Kong was once famous for. If you go and look at the Lonely Planet, this guide for tourists, they urge people to come to Hong Kong. This tiny city, so vibrant, so safe, so free. Many demonstrations every day, all peaceful and orderly, even musical. But no more. Very sad.
So the tipping point seems to have been 2019 when Beijing proposed the extradition bill, right? And then we got the national security law, which obviously now sits above Hong Kong's basic law. Do you think it can get much worse than what we're seeing right now?
Well, of course it's possible. If you look around the world, I mean, many people are in situations which are much worse off than us. And people are being killed, there are bombs exploding everywhere, people are getting locked up, there's famine, there's genocide. So, I mean, the list is very long. And if we look around us, we are not on the top of the list. I mean, look at Gaza, look at Ukraine, look at Myanmar, Cambodia, Sudan, I mean, Afghanistan. I mean, the list is very long. But of course, we don't want things to deteriorate. And I'm still here, sitting here. People kept asking me why I haven't been arrested. Well, I just think that we want to tell President Xi Jinping, especially on this very important day, that the situation has calmed down. I do not support, my party did not support what happened in 2019 or the violence and all that on whatever side. But the situation has calmed down. We've got the national security law. We've got a basic law, Article 23 legislation. So the authorities here, but especially those in Beijing, must feel confident that, the situation is under control and they can start giving the people, allowing the people to enjoy more freedoms, the freedoms that were enshrined in the Sino-British Joint Declaration and the Basic Law, and the freedoms that we've enjoyed for many years after 1907.
So, Emily, you mentioned the loss of civil society, and there's no political opposition. You mentioned that. A couple of other considerations, freedom of the press, for sure, that has diminished, and also the rule of law. And some of the comments made by Lord Sumption and some of the other judges that resigned from the Court of Final Appeal are troubling. Do you think that companies, businesses, will start to rethink plans to be here in Hong Kong because of that?
Well, I'm not an expert on what these companies think, but I've spoken to people, and they would like to have the rule of law. And when the financial secretary, Paul Chan, when he traveled to America, to Europe, and other places to sell Hong Kong, to try to attract investors to come to Hong Kong, the first thing he talked about was the rule of law. He knows that that's very much on the mind of these money people. And then the first thing he said is, oh, look at us. We are the only place on earth which has foreign judges sitting on our Court of Final Appeal. And the Court of Final Appeal can find the government wrong. We have been defeated in the court. So you see, they are so independent. Well, I hope that is true. And I hope that my people, my friends languishing in prison and their relatives and friends would agree. And of course, I hope the Hong Kong people and the judges, local and foreign, will also agree with Mr. Chan. And if that's the case, then of course, we will see more foreign business people or people, tourists, students, all of them coming to Hong Kong. But now I don't think we are seeing that many.
Obviously, you are still there, Emily. You mentioned a moment ago that many people have asked you why. There has been some brain drain. There have been a number of people who have left. I mean, can you describe what that's looked like from your perspective?
Well, it's very, very sad. And I saw some report recently about the number of Hong Kong people in the UK. This is mainly because of then Prime Minister Boris Johnson's and the Parliament's decision to have this BNO scheme, which allow people who hold the British National Overseas Passport or that identity to go to the UK to live for 5 years, and then they can, on the 6th year, they can begin to apply for British citizenship. So that make it much easier for people to go there. And the report said we're talking about 200,000 or more people who have gone there. But many have also gone to Canada and even Australia because they have made the immigration thing much easier for Hong Kong young people. And many of the people who have left are educated people, they have money, and they are the backbone of the economy. They are the middle-class people, and they are professionals, very well educated. So just imagine if a society suddenly loses so many of these people. That's why the government has schemes to attract talents from overseas and mainland China. But it will take a very long time to attract the right people, the right education, and so it's not easy at all.
Emily, I'm curious about the future and your thoughts of it, and whether or not Hong Kong can bounce back. You know, we always said don't ever bet against Hong Kong because it showed over 50, 60, 70 years the ability to reinvent itself. Is that sort of spirit still there in your mind, or is Hong Kong being hollowed out?
No, I don't think the game is over, although some people do think so, and they have left. And even those who are here, they feel very, very distressed, and they are quite unhappy with the situation. Well, I think the most important thing, apart from Hong Kong people having the stamina, having the determination to make it work, but all along, all these years, the major factor that would make Hong Kong one country, two system, and all these things prosper is on the part of Beijing. It's self-censorship by the central government. And they exercise that quite a bit. Since from 1997, for quite a number of years, they left Hong Kong alone. Well, maybe they trusted the government then, and they really did. So I hope President Xi Jinping now realized that things have settled down. I know their top concern is national security, and I hope they will come to realize that Hong Kong no longer poses a threat to national security. I hope we will be given a chance.
I think at the same time, Beijing is very concerned about economic growth, and Bryan was making the point earlier in the program about perhaps the recognition that Hong Kong is very much a part still of China's growth story. Do you think Beijing is aware of that at all?
Well, I would like to think so, but I've met people, who kept telling me that, well, that's no longer or maybe has never been Beijing's top concern. Their top concern now is national security. So if they feel that is under threat, anything else can be sacrificed. And I think it would be a big shame for Beijing to say, okay, we'll let Hong Kong go. Because Hong Kong has prospered for so long, and Hong Kong has, contributed to the country's development. And Hong Kong people and many Chinese people, mainland Chinese, rich, educated people, they like to come here with their children. They like to go to our schools. Of course, some use this as a stepping stone to go overseas, but they like it here. So I hope the people in Beijing and other people in the country would recognize that it would be a great pity to just kill off Hong Kong.
On the practical side, aside from allowing more freedoms, what would you like to see? What sort of policy would you like to see from Beijing to help stimulate Hong Kong?
Well,
to get its mojo back.
Well, apart from all these things about stimulating the economy, which some people think, they're not working that well because you see many empty restaurants and vacant shops because many people have gone north to shop, to eat and all that. But what we need as a civilized society is plurality, diversity. Not that I'm saying, they should allow the Democratic Party to take part in elections. Of course they should, but they should allow others to take part in elections, to show tolerance that Hong Kong is a place that people with different views can coexist peacefully. And that's what we did in the past. It's not as if I'm asking for something from the moon. So this is important so that business people, professional people, they understand that this is a place that tolerate difference of opinion. You will be respected. You will not be arrested.
Yeah.
And you will not be thrown into prison.
So important. Emily, thanks so much for coming in. We enjoyed the chat. Emily Lau, who is a former chairperson of the Democratic Party, and I would have to say probably one of the 3 or 4 most influential legislators over the past 25, 30 years, certainly that I've been here.
This has been the Bloomberg Daybreak Asia podcast, bringing you the stories making news and moving markets in the Asia Pacific. Visit the Bloomberg Podcast channel on YouTube to get more episodes of this and other shows from Bloomberg. Subscribe to the podcast on Apple, Spotify, or anywhere else you listen, and always on Bloomberg Radio, the Bloomberg Terminal, and the Bloomberg Business app.